I could call you, Bill, and tell you I just picked I just picked a stock today and it quadrupled it 10x'd overnight.
Sure.
And you'd be really excited about that. You like to make money. But at the same time, what if that call was accompanied with, hey, we just beat the index for the 100th time in a row. But Bill, I got some bad news for you. The reality is we haven't hit a single goal along the way. What's the point of beating the index if it's not helping us reach our goals?
Right.
On the flip side, what if we worked together? What if I was your planner and 30 years from now, I call you up and I say, Bill, I was doing some analysis on your stuff. And did you know that there wasn't a single quarter, not a single quarter in the past 30 years that I ever beat the index? But that's not really why I'm calling today. I just thought that was something unique. Here's what I'm calling you for. I just checked off the last box on your financial plan. Every single goal that we have built over the past 30 years, you've succeeded at. Which one do you actually care about? Today, we're going to talk about something that I see a lot when people come in and kind of interview me to see if I'm a good fit for them as their financial planner. One of the questions is what's your history of performance? So we've just recently had a call where we said, past performance does not indicate future returns. But still we get asked that question so frequently. What is it that you're accomplishing? Do you beat the market? The market.
Can you beat the index?
Yeah.
Is the big question.
First of all, let's step back. Let's define what an index is. When people ask what can you beat the index, or on the news, the S&P 500 performed X today, or the Dow Jones Industrial Average did this today. What they're really at the end of the day, it's just an aggregation of a bunch of individual companies. And sometimes we term these indexes as quote unquote the market. So if you're talking to a buddy, he's like, the market did pretty good today. What he's probably alluding to is that the indexes, these average measurement tools, performed in a certain manner that's, maybe it went up and it went up more than normal. So when you hear terms of the index or the market, just think of an aggregated group, an average term. Sometimes these indexes can be in the same sector. Sometimes they're the same market cap. So we might have a technology index or an energy index. Sometimes we might have a small cap index, a small group of small companies, or a large cap, a group of large companies. And really all we're saying is what's the average. So as a financial professional, as an investment manager, shouldn't I be able to beat the average? The answer is probably not. The answer is probably, and even if I did once, I probably can't do it forever and consistently. We call that luck, right? If you beat it, if you run into somebody and they're like, hey, you should let me invest your money. I beat the index. They might be telling the truth, but we call that luck.
Right.
Right. What was we were talking about the mutual funds over 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah. The longer you spread out, and this was examining mutual fund managers. So basically the moral of the story is if you look 20 years out, 95% of mutual fund managers underperform the indexes.
Yeah. The markets.
And the markets, if you will. I mean, different mutual funds have different indices that they try and beat. But not to get into too nitty-gritty details, 95% over a 20-year period, and over a 30-year period, it's even less than that. I'm not 100% on the number, but the longer you go out, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, invest with me, your guy got 9% for you last year, I got my clients 10%. Again, sorry, they may be telling the truth, and not to say that person's lying, but they had one good year. The longer that time frame goes out, the more and more likely that's not to be the case. And so that kind of leads us into this email. where the main frame is how do we measure success?
Yeah.
And if you watch the TV, the hot button topic is beating the index. It is that equals success.
And I think it's important. Like, it's not a bad thing if an investment manager is trying to measure up to some standard of production. But at
Sure.
the end of the day, we can only control what we can control.
Right.
And even as an investment manager, I do so much research. I talk to so many people. I have such intense processes to figure out like what direction I'm steering my investment ship.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I can't control what happens in the market tomorrow, or if, Russia invades Ukraine, or so all these things that you don't always expect can change the narrative. And so I say all that to say, we should not measure our success by the performance of the market, the indexes. And also, let's broaden this out a little bit. How many times have you had a client come in here and say, well, I was talking to my neighbor and he got 12%, some arbitrary number. He
Sure.
got 13, he got 11% return.
Yeah.
And I only got 9.
Yeah.
Bill, what are you doing with my money that my neighbor's doing better? Should I call his guy?
Right.
And we kind of talked a little bit about that in a couple of episodes ago when we talked about, going after the thing that has been outperforming. And what do we end up doing? We sell low, buy high.
Yeah.
The reality is that if we are doing this ourselves, or if we are working with somebody, I actually just had a call with a new client today, and we were talking about investment allocation. And I told him, I was like, look, man, like, if you want an investment manager that is going to tout or try every day or every year to beat the market, like, that is not me. You're never going to hear me talk about doing something in the portfolio to try to beat the market. What that means is I'm overweighting risk and I'm underweighting like you, right? Like, I'm not giving enough thought to what you need me to do for you and your goals. If I'm trying to beat the market, then I'm effectively saying, as your manager, I care more about performance than I do about your outcome.
Right.
And so in that sense, like, here's the thing. Very few people have enough risk tolerance, have enough tolerance for the volatility and the violence of like ups and downs that can happen in the market. Very few people have enough stomach or knowledge to weather storms that last a long time, to even build a portfolio that has the chances of beating an index. We were talking about this in show prep. Like, we have Riskalyze. It's on our website. You guys can use it. You guys can go see what your risk score is. Go to our homepage, harpethwealthpartners.com, and scroll down. You'll see the Riskalyze video you can watch, and then you just click on take the quiz, right? You can take it. You can find out what your risk tolerance is. We can go further to analyze where your portfolio is at and see if your portfolio matches your comfort zone. That being said, a year and a half ago, right, all the COVID money dumping into the economy, stocks were roaring, the markets were roaring.
Yeah.
And people were optimistic. And I would give people that Riskalyze test, and man, like, it's a score that you can score as low as 1 and as high as 99. 99 being like a lot of risk that you're willing to take, or you're okay taking. And in that time period, almost every client that I was sitting down in front of this quiz would come back with a risk score of like 90 and above.
Yeah.
Very, very rare would I see something maybe in the 20s.
Yeah.
Out of the past like 10 that I've given in this little questionnaire, 9 of them have been in the single digit range. Why are all of us, like, human beings didn't change? It's just the reality of our circumstances did. And we realized a year and a half of being in a downward and volatile market, that where fear is being perpetuated day in, day out by the news and by the media and all this stuff. Like, when we're scared, we want less risk.
Right.
And so if I need to build a portfolio that is tailored to your goals, to your comfort with risk, to your longevity, your exposure, time horizon to the market, based on some things like your own values and what you're willing to invest money into, based on economic data, all these things. If I truly build this diversified, wonderful portfolio that is uniquely yours, if I'm doing my job right, we'll never outperform the market. Right? Like, I mean, well, I shouldn't say never. We will likely rarely outperform the market because I'm de-risking away from you just picking to expose yourself 100% to the volatile markets that exist out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the other conversations that we love to have as financial advisors and professionals and financial planners is, again, you have to define what success is. Is beating the market success for you? If you're getting ready to retire and you've spent your entire life accumulating assets and now you just need a certain percentage every year, and we run our we do what we do to figure out what you're going to need as far as income goes, you may not need to even be anywhere near the index. I mean, I've had people that, we've all had clients that, hey, I have my IRAs over here, but I also have rental properties, and I'm probably never going to touch the IRAs. So that's part of my, I'm going to pass those to beneficiaries. That's my legacy plan, if you will. And so you really have to. That starts by looking at your your current position, where you're at, and then defining success from there. Not what your neighbor says or your buddy says or what the TV says. You may not need 10%. Like I said, you may need 4 or 5%. And if that's the case, you don't need to be riding the roller coaster of life in the S&P 500, where last year it was down, 19, 20%. Like you said, that's going to make a lot of people's stomachs drop.
Yeah.
And you may not need to do that. And so having the conversation, like I said, where you're at today, where you need to go, that's going to define your success more than beating the index.
Well, in the email, a couple things that I pointed out, like I could call you, Bill, and tell you I just picked I just picked a stock today and it quadrupled it 10x'd overnight.
Sure.
And you'd be really excited about that. We like to make money. But at the same time, what if that call was accompanied with, hey, we just beat the index for the 100th time in a row. But Bill, I got some bad news for you. The reality is we haven't hit a single goal along the way. What's the point of beating the index if it's not helping us reach our goals?
Right.
On the flip side, what if we worked together? What if I was your planner and, I don't know, 30 years from now, I call you up and I say, Bill, I was doing some analysis on your stuff. And did you know that there wasn't a single quarter, not a single quarter in the past 30 years that I ever beat the index? But that's not really why I'm calling today. I just thought that was something unique. Here's what I'm calling you for. I just checked off the last box on your financial plan. Every single goal that we have built over the past 30 years, you've succeeded at. Like, which one do you actually care about?
Yeah.
Do you care that we didn't beat the index? Or, hey, I called you because I beat the index, but we're failing on everything else?
Right.
Or do you care more that, hey, even though we didn't beat the index, we didn't need to?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's winning. We took less risk the whole way. We made these appropriate decisions along the way. Everything was tied to your goals and values and beliefs. And at the end, we nailed it.
Yeah.
That's winning.
Yeah.
Right? What, you got any thoughts there?
Well, I just, a client pops to mind. I was doing an annual review and, I was going over performance and, everything I was supposed to go over. And we just kind of ended up at performance at the end. And I said, hey, I'm looking for comments from you guys, any feedback. Have you guys been happy with the service I've been able to provide? Anything, I'm trying to get better. And they didn't bring up the performance that we just talked about or how good or bad it was. The first thing that they said was, you've really helped us give us peace of mind.
Yeah.
And so that kind of goes to what you're saying is a lot of times people don't actually care about beating the index. They care about doing the right things and reaching their goals.
Yeah. Then that's the final thought, right? Is like, if you're listening to this and you're somebody that's in the process of like creating their financial future, working toward financial. I say towards way too often. Toward, towards it, right?
Towards.
Man, it's Southern stuff, or maybe it's just me.
If you say it enough, it doesn't even sound like a real word.
If you're working toward financial independence, financial peace, like if you're mastering your own kind of behaviors and attitudes toward money, if we're doing all these things, the reality is at some point we're going to invest money in something, probably.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe you're not even there. Maybe right now you're just like literally putting cash inside of an emergency savings account. Maybe you're just getting started in this journey and you don't have investments yet. What you need to understand is outperforming the market or picking the next 10x stock, the get rich quick like idea. It's just not the right path to be on. The path to be on is to stop worrying about the person on your social media scroll that just said they went from like no money invested to 10 millionaire overnight. Stop worrying about the golf course chat with the guy in the golf cart saying, he eked out a 16% return last year. Stop worrying about the neighbor, the family dinner. Stop worrying about the news cycle. Stop worrying about the indexes. Just stop worrying about all of it. Worry about your goals and achieving them, and work with people that can like dial in that, like to hear you, to understand you. And if you don't need to work with somebody right now, be honest with yourself and make sure you're giving yourself some real opportunities to succeed. I think that is where you're at. And the question to take away from all of this whole conversation about outperforming the index, the question that we want to leave you with is, what are your goals? What are your biggest goals? And what are you actively doing right now to realize those goals as soon as possible?
Yeah. I've never had a client call me crying because they beat the index last year. I'll just say that. I've had a client call because of the goals they were able to accomplish. She's going to be okay to retire someday.
Yeah.
And that's
what matters.
That's what matters. That's
beating the index does not equal success. Yeah. Reaching your goals equals success. Right? Hands down, that's the only way to look at it. That's the takeaway. If you're at the point of you have accumulated assets, like make sure your portfolio is aligned the correct way. It's money is hard to make. It is hard to make money.
Yeah.
It is hard to make real money. And so if we start making money, if we start making real money, we have to be good stewards of that. And, like a couple episodes ago, we talked about the greater fool theory. We've been talking about a lot this over like the kickoff to season 2 has really been about this notion. We're battling this epidemic out there of like the shiny stuff on the social media scrolls, the clickbait things, the stories that are, a 1 in a billion story just being perpetuated, that it's like everyday happenings. Like, everyone's a millionaire now because everyone did this except for me. And now I need to do it.
Right.
Chasing, last year's story, chasing, indexers. We're creating this story in season 2 that it has nothing to do with the information that's being shoved in your face.
Yeah.
And if you can put that noise aside, which is hard, it's hard to be that self-aware. And honestly, like we should do a show on like decision fatigue. And just this this notion of like, it's really easy to wake up in the morning and be like, keep your headspace in the right place. But usually throughout the day, we're making decisions at work. We're making decisions, learning too much at school where our head gets tired, our souls get kind of broken down throughout the day. And we're just like, at the end of the day, we're just like, we're just saying yes to whatever. We can't stay strong.
Yeah.
I always say that's when it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
But sometimes we can't, right? And so that's when we're scrolling social media and we're like, this cool little pop up, and I'm clicking in, and I'm all of a sudden like, you can become you can get $10 million in the next month without investing a dollar,
working,
without any work. There's no risk.
Yeah.
If you're gonna make money, it's hard.
Yeah.
And if you're making money, you got to protect. You got to be a good steward, and you got to be diligent. And so the focus so far in season 2 has just really been driving home the fact that it's not about, it's so, performance is such a small piece of financial success. The magic number of where I need to be when I'm 60, that's kind of, it's there's so much myth behind it. And what is factually true is formulating good, strong behaviors today will cultivate a pattern. Micro actions can have this like contagious effect where if I make one small good decision now, I'll probably make another one and then another one and then another one, and momentum starts building, right? But it all starts with awareness and understanding of, it's a lot of times like a me versus them, and them being like, all these people, all these predators almost like trying to take dollars away from me. And we just need to understand that what it really comes down to is having the right goals, staying laser focused on them, and doing the hard work to achieve those goals. What's your thoughts?
Just Jordan Peterson says, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not what others are today.
Yeah, and
I think that ties in. So
everybody knows that, but it's so hard to do.
Yeah,
it's so hard to do.
We're not perfect.
No, we're not, and that's, you're not supposed to be. And that's the beautiful thing about this being a weekly podcast. Tune in next week just to remind you that it's okay to like have missteps and we can correct it, because that's the human experience, is making some mistakes and learning and growing. And we'll get there. It's a path. It's a long path. It's a journey that's going to take time. If you guys have any questions, send them our way. Go to our website, harpethwealthpartners.com. Our emails are on there. You can send us some questions, and we'll explore it. We'll try to put together enough content. We can make the content for you, or you can tell us what you want to hear, and we'll give it to you, and we'll do as much research as possible. So any thoughts, any ideas, anything you've heard that you want us to dissect, we'll get it out, and we can probably get it out as soon as the next like few weeks to a month if it's a good topic. So we'll talk to you soon. That's all we got for now. Anything left? All right,
adios,
guys.
Everybody.
Have a good week. We hope you learned something valuable today. We appreciate you including us in your journey towards financial betterment. It is important to us that you know this is for educational purposes only and not to be considered specific advice for any individual listener. If something we discussed is relevant to you and you have questions about how it might be uniquely applicable to you, please discuss that with a financial professional, or, of course, we are happy to have further conversations with you about your specific questions, needs, or circumstances. We welcome you to reach out to us via our website, harpethwealthpartners.com, or by emailing Brandan at bmc@harpethwealthpartners.com. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice is offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Harpeth Wealth Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not to be intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult appropriate qualified professionals prior to making a decision. Investing includes risk, including fluctuating prices and loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Hypothetical examples presented are not representative of any specific investments. Your results may vary. We want to thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you back next week.